So in this video, I'm going to show you exactly what numbers to keep track of, what kind of KPIs to keep track of, and exactly how to get the most return out of your ad spend for your Facebook ads, your home service business, so you can make more money, more profit, and buy more stuff. So let's dive right into it. So let's say I'm a kitchen renovation company. I am a kitchen company. And let's say I have a $3,000 marketing budget. I'm like asking myself, what the hell do I do with $3,000? It's not a lot of money, but it's not, it's not a low amount of money. You get the point. So I'm wondering what do I need to do? Well, the first thing you need to do is kind of keep track of everything what you're doing right now. So first question you need to ask for yourself is, what is my average ticket? So let's say average kitchen renovation costs $25,000 revenue. 25K. Out of that, you profit, say $5,000 out of that. Now, if you're a bigger company, you might be profiting only 2.5K, maybe down less than 10%. But if you're a smaller owner-operator company, you might be profiting a lot more. I know companies doing 40% profit off of a kitchen renovation, which is mind-boggling. So, for the sake of this marketing strategy, we'll set up the profit margins as just literally 20%. So let's say you're operating at a 20% gross profit. Sweet. Now let's get into the terminology that you need to understand. What is my CAC? Which basically means what is my cost to acquire a customer? People say clients, people say customers. Doesn't really. The second thing that you need to know is what is my lifetime gross profit? LTGP. Lifetime gross profit. Now this is where it's interesting. This is the average ticket. Now if you've been in business for over a decade or so, you probably need to know what your lifetime gross profit is, because what if the customer comes back 5 years later down the line and they're like, I want another kitchen remodel, I want another bathroom remodel. Then your profit just jumps up by like crazy. So you need to know exactly what it is, your lifetime gross profit is. So last but not least, you need to track your conversions. Now there's a lot of different metrics behind conversions. There's CPO, show rate, appointments, booking percentage. Make that a percentage. There's a lot of things that are behind conversions. So let's get down to the nitty gritty. So let's say for my marketing plan, I expect a cost per lead around $50 for people who are interested in kitchen renovations. And I have a $3,000 budget in the span of 45 days, let's say for the sake of this plan. So 45 days, $3,000 budget. Now, let's say I'm expecting $50 leads, which is pretty reasonable for kitchen renovation and bathroom renovations or any renovation-related projects. So let's say I'm expecting $50 cost per lead, CPL. Okay, sweet. Now, let's say with a $3,000 budget, I generate 60 leads. Out of those 60 leads, let's say I have a 30% appointment booking rate, 30%, which means I am booking 18 appointments. So realistically, my cost per appointment is just at $1,000 divided by 18. My cost per appointment is CPA is at $166. Sweet. And I'll tell you exactly why these metrics are very important later down the video, and why you need to keep track of all these numbers. So out of those 18 appointments, let's say you have a 90% show up rate, which means 2 people get lost in the pipeline. Let's actually pull out the calculator. 18 times 0.9. Let's say 3 people get lost in the pipeline and 16 actually show. Awesome. Show. Okay, so these are people that you actually have sit downs and don't. Let's say out of those 16 homeowners that you visit out to, you had a 15% closing rate. 15% closing rate. And then my handwriting's really rough right there, but that's a 1 right there. So you have a 50% closing rate out of 16 homeowners that showed up, which leaves you at 2.43 jobs, 2.43 deals being sold. Let's say you're selling exactly 2.5 deals. Let's say a deposit comes in. Let's say they're super interested, but something happens and then they're not able to go. Whatever it is. Let's say 2.5 deals closed. Sweet. Now, because we know our numbers, we know that it takes us on $5,000. Our lifetime gross profit is $5,000. So we just multiply or not lifetime gross profit. Your gross profit is $5,000. So we just multiply your $5,000 by 2.5x, leaves us with, I think, let's do the math, with $1,250 in gross profit. Now, what a lot of people like to do is they just look at, okay, I closed, they just look at revenue. Out of that, they're like, I closed for this specific scenario, they're thinking they closed $62,000. They're like, man, I put in $3,000, got out $62,000. They're like, oh my God, dude, whatever. Like, I need to do everything like this. Well, it's probably not the best numbers to look at, because out of that, you only profited 12.5K. You spent 3K. So if you really look at the numbers, 62K is rev, 12K is profit. So you make a 4x off your bottom line. Now, remember when I said why you need to keep track of all these numbers? Well, the reason being on why you need to keep track of these numbers is because we could exactly know where the gaps are being filled, where the gaps are. So the first gap I could immediately tell is your appointment booking rate is absolutely trash, 30%. If we just increase this number by literally 10%, let's see what happens. Let's say we have a 10% increase in appointment and you follow up with people more and whatever it is, the 10% booking rate, which leaves you with 60 appointments times 40%, leaves you with 24 appointments. And your cost per appointment goes from $166 to just at $125. 25 cost per appointment right there. Now, out of those 24 appointments, so you still have a 90% show up rate, you have 22 people show up. Now, out of that, let's say you still have the same closing percentage, you're at 3.3 jobs, basically, 3.3. Now, obviously for the sake of this, let's say somebody puts in a deposit, whatever it is, you're closing 3.3 jobs, which means without having to spend any more money or doing anything about tweaking with your closing process or anything like that, by just improving your appointment booking process, let's do the numbers right now, you made an extra $4,000 because you would have profited 16.5 right here. You would have profited 16.5 with a 10% increase. You'd have a $4,000 increase in profit. And your revenue would have been $82,000. $82,500. And you would have basically gotten a 5x return by just simply increasing your appointment booking rate by 10 freaking percent. And you just made money literally out of thin air by just increasing these numbers. So this is why you need to keep track of all your numbers. So this gets even more interesting. Let's say you got a $10,000 budget that you want to deal with. Sweet. Now you can start predictably scaling your business because number one, we know what our freaking CAC is. We know our cost per appointment is. Actually, we do not know our CAC, so let's actually do it right now. So if we go down right here with a 30% booking rate, we're at a $1,200 CAC. 1,200. I don't know why I did that. 1.2K CAC. And with a 40% booking rate, we are at a $909 and cent CAC. That's a $300 difference. And if you spend enough money, and if you are spending a lot of money, it makes the world, because that could be a difference between 50,000 profit versus 0 profit extra added to your top line or your bottom line. So this is why, if you're planning on spending over $10,000-$20,000 a month on your marketing efforts, why you need to keep track of every single freaking numbers. And once you start keeping track of all your numbers, you know exactly where the problem is. Like, for instance, this 15% to me is unacceptable. You need to be at least at a 20 freaking percent out of these leads, which basically tells me that I need to improve my sales process. Same thing right here. Out of 60 leads, I only have a 30%. I need to get a 50% booking rate, which means there's an issue with my appointment booking process. Maybe my VA, maybe my admin isn't dialing the leads fast enough. Maybe they aren't following up with them fast enough. Whatever it is. Now let's say there's another gap I see right here. Out of those 18 appointments, we said we had a 90% show up rate. What if we had 100 freaking show up? What if we had a 99% show up rate? Huh? How much more money would you make if you start spending a lot more money? Those numbers add up really well. Now, when you're on a smaller scale, conversions or appointment booking rate and closing drives the factor. It does everything. Those drive the needle moving forward to making my company more money. Now, this is where it gets more interesting. And let's say I go in with a super freaking aggressive offer and I cut this CPL down by half. You know what that instantly just does to everything? It just instantly slashes our CAC by half. So right now we were paying $600. Let's say all the freaking numbers stay the same, which it probably won't. There might be a little bit of fluctuation, whatever it is. But let's say all my numbers freaking stay the same for closing, appointment booking percentage, closing rates, whatever it is, everything. It slashes our CAC by $1,200 down to $600 freaking dollars. And this right here with a 40% booking rate down to just $459 and whatever it is, 50 cents. Which is just, if you just think about it, that is mind-boggling. It's actually $454.50 right here. And then now you guys are spending, you guys are doubling your profit, doubling your revenue, and making the double amount of money for your bottom line. Let's say you're pulling $16,500 profit. Now you're pulling in 32 freaking G's out of a $3,000 ad spend, and you get a 8 to 10x return on ad spend. This is exactly why you need to keep track of all your freaking numbers, whether it's on a sheet or whatever it is, and you know exactly what your numbers are to a freaking T. Because if you don't know that and you're going out here in the marketplace and running ads and like, well, whatever it is, I'm not getting leads. Okay, let's say you get leads, but you're not keeping track of everything, whatever it is. You are going to get gapped by companies who are keeping track of everything. Let's say they find a problem in the sales, in their appointment booking process. Let's say you don't. Let's say they take the next week or two to actively take time out of their freaking business or take time and start focusing on solving that exact problem. Not even 2 weeks, let's say a month. How better would they be? How much more money would they be? That's how your competitors are crushing you guys. Because not a lot of people keep track of the numbers. People are like, well, it's hard to generate leads. In fact, it's really not that hard if you just find the right people to do it for. You could either go out there, learn the knowledge yourself, or you could delegate. At a certain point, I know so, that after a certain point in your business, you need to start delegating. You need to start delegating. Like for instance, there's a whole entire different story that you could get into, but for instance, let's say your hours is $100. You're worth $100 an hour. Would it make sense for you to clean your house? That takes an hour, and you don't do any revenue generating activities. Your opportunity cost every time you clean your house is $100. On a long enough time horizon, that adds up. Let's say you want to make food, right? Whatever it is, it's all about looking at opportunity costs and keeping track of basically everything. And without knowing these numbers or knowing these metrics, you can't really do anything in your marketing. Let's say you want to spend that $3,000, turn that into $30,000. Where are the freaking gaps? Like for us, I know a lot of the gaps that we have for our clients is usually falls into three different places. It is CPL, closing, and drive right here. CPL, closing, and usually last but not least, the appointment booking rate. Now, we can start pinpointing these problems and start implementing solutions to these problems and trying using an entrepreneurial spirit to solve these problems. So this is why exactly you need either a dashboard or a simple Google Sheet works as well to keep track of all the freaking numbers and where to kind of pull the levers. Let's say your cost per lead is at $100, but you don't even freaking know because you don't know your numbers. Well, that's a huge freaking issue. So I would advise you to have a sheet, dashboard, whatever it is, to keep track of everything. Now, I do run an agency helping home service companies, roofing, renovation, and painting companies. Our bread and butter usually is painting and renovation, but we do help roofers. We help some HVAC companies with their Facebook ads. But if you're any of one of those companies and you don't even want to have the headache of dealing with any of this bullshit I just laid out to you, schedule a call with us, and let's see if we can help you out. Talk to you soon. Bye.